thank you for coming back from lunch. We're moving into the last section of our agenda for today, which covers a range of sports-related reports. So very appropriately, we'll get underway with Sport Manawatu's annual report to Palmerston North City Council for 24-25. And I'll invite Anne-Marie Morey, Policy Analyst, Kelly Shanks, Chief Executive of Sport Manawatu, and Carl Johnston, General Manager, Partnerships of Sport Manawatu, to join us to take us through their annual report. Thank you all.
Kia ora koutou, Madam Chair and Councillors. I'm pleased to present Sport Manawatu's annual report for the last financial year, so 1st July 2024 to 30 June 25, which is the final year of the 3-year agreement that we held with Sport Manawatu. Shortly I'll ask Kelly and Carl from Sport Manawatu to speak to their report. But I'd just like to say that the annual report is an opportunity to check back against the agreed accountability requirements and performance measures for the 3 outcome areas that we had in the 3-year agreement. Overall, it's pleasing to say that Sport Manawatu has made excellent progress and met all of the accountability requirements, and was mostly on track for all of the performance measures. Just a note on those performance measures, you might note this time around that I've made some comments regarding the attribution of some of those measures to Sport Manawatu. Don't think that they should be held wholly accountable for some of those, so we've reviewed our approach to performance measurement in the new 3-year agreement. So on that, in July this year, which was only a couple of months ago, Kelly and Wade signed a new 3-year agreement, which aligns with Council's current strategic direction. Sorry, just struggling to see with these glasses. The refreshed partnership includes updated outcomes, and a council workshop was held, which you provided some really valuable feedback into the formation of those new outcomes, and also some new initiatives. So just going through those very quickly. So it's very similar to the last agreement, but with some improvements around those outcomes. So Palmerston North is recognised as one of the most active and healthiest communities in New Zealand, and a couple of just initiatives to note, and it's sort of quite topical, that Sport Manawatu will be working with our regional sports organisations and doing regular health checks, just to make sure that they're running sustainably. And the other thing is we want Sport Manawatu to be more, I suppose, active in our council spaces with things like pop-up events and I suppose, yeah, just playing a stronger activation role. The second outcome is that sports events provide great experiences and significant economic benefits to the city, creating vibrancy and widespread social benefits. And as part of that, one thing that we've actually already started to do as a group is to look at the sports event attraction and retention plan, which was done a few years ago. And the last outcome area is active transport related, and so we want Palmerston North residents to embrace active transport as part of their daily lives to enhance their health and wellbeing while contributing to a more sustainable future. And Kelly and the team have have a strong desire to bring back the iMove initiative that was carried out a few years ago, and also new to the agreement this year is delivering on some age-friendly actions, holding some walking and cycling workshops for seniors. So that's enough from me. We will continue to work closely with our strategic partners, Sport Manawatu, and monitor their progress with regular check-ins. And Sport Manawatu will be coming back early in the new year with their 6-month progress update. So I'll now hand to Kelly and Carl.
Tēnā koutou katoa. So my name is Kelly Shanks and I'm the Chief Executive at Sport Manawatu. You want to introduce yourself, Carl?
Kia ora everyone, my name is Carl Johnston, General Manager, Sport Manawatu.
Thank you for hearing us today. I know it's a jam-packed agenda, and obviously we'll take the report as read. We have a little video to start. It's a year's reflection in a minute, which hopefully works. Love technology. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the member who joined us this morning and highlighted that dog recreation is a popular form of being active. So active dogs and active owners. I thought that was quite clever. We have a presentation. Yeah, can you control it? Great. Carl's got the controls. So Colin mentioned it this morning, but we are very proud and a special mihi to Te Pai Oranga o Raihini o Tararua and the Sport Manawatu who are currently honoured with Hapote Memorial Tonga, Excellence in Impacting Māori Participation as Māori by Sport New Zealand. I would like to acknowledge and thank the Iwi Māori Partnership Board for their trust in us to work in partnership with them on this amazing mahi. So in regards to the very topical OCG bill, before presenting to the Select Committee on Monday, I certainly did my homework. This included hosting a hui last week with our sports sector, along with our local MP, Tangi, to ensure that I listened and understood the voices of our sporting codes and community, as well as bringing the voice of the National Collective and the Sports Trust. Spoke at the Select Committee on Monday, and I'm happy to share that submission with anybody that would like that. But firstly, I would like to say that we do not condone gambling, and I welcome anyone and everyone who would work with us to drive systemic change so that sports, arts and community are no longer reliant on gaming trust funding. However, the reality is stark, and in the last 3 years, sport in Aotearoa have noticed a 20 to 50% reduction in Class 4 gaming funding coming into their sports. Yet in 2024, 8 million came into our region. Now, when I talk about our region, it's Palmerston North, Tararua, Horowhenua, and rural Manawatu. So that's the mid-central region. So that was from Class 4 gaming. 66% of that went to sport. So that equates to about $5 million. So I ask you, where would that funding come from if that disappeared? And of course, topical as well, how would that maintain facilities or build new buildings? So it is concerning, and the implications are clear. Those who could afford to play sport will be the only ones who can going forward, and I'm sure you agree that is not the future we want. In regards to, Colin's already sort of talked to this, changes in government, sideline behaviour, volunteers. So if we think about, I guess, changes in government, so governance, volunteers are have always been a challenge in sport, and it is growing and impacted. So that is something we're very focused on, and what I would say sideline behaviour and volunteers is that we have noticed a growing concern in regards to coaches, players and umpires and sideline behaviour. So creating safe environments for those children to be able to play sport, creating safe environments for coaches to be able to coach, and creating safe environments for umpires and referees is really important. This is affecting the children who are coming through that we're working with to be coaches, to be umpires and to be volunteers, because actually they're having a really bad experience, unfortunately, from parents on the sideline. So you'll see a lot in our report about positive vibes, and that's what that campaign is about, is creating and maintaining safe environments in the space of sport. Yeah. In regards to RSOs and clubs, that is a range of RSOs and clubs that we work with. And as Anne-Marie said, in the space of health checks and really working on the initiatives with them, but also on governance, on Te Treaty training, on child protection policies, and a lot of things in the background. Obviously, you can understand they're run by volunteers. A few of them have paid staff, but we're talking really just 1 or 2 members. So it is a really challenging time for RSOs and clubs. And of course, there's the Incorporated Societies Act as well. So that increases compliance and liability and is a challenge for clubs and RSOs going forward. In regards to our RSOs, they are quite reliant on their NSO having that Incorporated Society done at the national level first, before then they can do it at a regional level. So we are working alongside them in that space. In regards to this quarter coming up, because often I would say that one of the things is a 12-month report is a great reflective piece, but it's also long gone, and want to keep you in real time and current of what's coming up as well. So as you'll see, I don't expect you to read all of those. That is a small slither of the things that are coming up this quarter, but they do range from things for Tamariki right through to the Active Age Games, which we support. There's youth summits, there's the Basketball Secondary School Nationals, which is very exciting, and multicultural pop-ups, which is obviously Anne-Marie alluded to in regards to increased activations. And go on to the next one. And also in regards to celebrating our amazing rangatahi in the space of a secondary school sports awards, which we're looking forward to. So I'd like to really thank you in regards to keeping our city vibrant, connected and active. I'd like to take just a moment to acknowledge 2 amazing people in sport who have impacted this community, and that is Rusty, who is one of our Spark Manawatu Legends of Sport, and of course Steve, who I had the privilege of sitting along beside on the Bike Manawatu board and did amazing work in Palmerston and the whole region in regards to cycling, in fact nationally for cycling. Their passion and drive made a real impact, and it's a huge loss. And I have a few thank yous, so bear with me. On behalf of the sporting community, I'd like to thank you for your inclusive approach in regards to the Arena 5 development. Including their voice and bringing them along on the journey has been much appreciated. The sport and recreation community are excited about Arena 5 development to ensure that we can accommodate their growing needs and the demand that has been demonstrated. They're enjoying being part of that approach and look forward to being able to continue to host competitive environments in this very competitive world that we exist in facilities. I'd like to thank you all, elected members, for your investment. It has made a real impact in regards to the community across so many, and I wish you all luck going forward with the elections. Thank you in particular to Mayor Grant Smith and to Chair Rachel Bowen. Your support and presence has been widely acknowledged and felt across the sport and recreation sector. To Fire Debbie for your cultural support and integrity. And a huge thanks to all of the council officers who support and work in partnership with us. It's been fantastic to work with you, particularly Anne-Marie, Wade, David and his team, Danielle and her team, and the comms team, almost everyone really, because working collectively together, we actually make a greater impact. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora, thank you, short and I will open for questions, and there is one straight away from the Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just if I go, thanks very much, Kelly, for the report. Just on page 247 of our report, and it's your outcome one. It's got the membership and participation stats. A little bit hard to read, and it took me a couple of goes to read it. And it's got the arrows up, arrows down, or static. There's no previous years. I was just trying to figure out where, should there not be another, panel there, or sorry, area which says the previous years?
Yes, and that's a very insightful question. Absolutely. I guess one of the challenges has been in this area is the different ways that sport capture their participation. And because they've changed their models, it's hard to compare, but we are working with them because we went back with that very question. So our next report, we will be able to answer that question in regards to, but overall, has there been an increase, decrease, or maintaining in regards to the sport? So when we ask the same question, they find it very difficult to answer because of the change in a lot of the models that they are now running.
Yeah, and the three that show decreases are what I consider three of our more participated sports of hockey, volleyball, and basketball. It doesn't make sense from what I see out there.
No, and that's right. And so the way that the questions had been worded
Yeah.
needs to change. And that's the piece of work we're doing with Anne-Marie and the team, as well as our sports sector, to actually, because some have members, you know this better than everybody, but some have members, some don't have members. Sometimes it's more about the teams. The way they capture it's really difficult. So you're actually pairing apples and oranges, not the same.
Yeah, and I suppose this is a question maybe for the CEO or possibly the GM. I've never understood since I've been in this building, why do staff negotiate and sign this off? And as governors, we almost have zero input into this. Does anybody know?
Through you, Madam Chair, as the officer said, there was a workshop where the details of that contract were workshopped, and the sum is within the delegation of the CE to authorise based on that. So, it's been the historical way it's been done.
Okay.
I mean, in the next, I guess it's not up for renewal for 3 years, but if the council would like to see that come through to the table, then to this table, sorry, then that's something we can look at for next time.
Okay, all right, so it's historical. Okay, other than that, great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zabella.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you. This is an incredible report. I had a question, probably for Anne-Marie, but I wanted to know, how were the refreshed outcomes drafted?
I suppose through a process of sharing various drafts of those outcomes. We had a number of meetings, and did we have some workshops, and just really bounced the drafting of those outcomes back between us. Yeah.
So it's a pretty collaborative process.
Yes.
I had some questions about outcome one, which I had been quite critical of the previous outcome one, and I wondered what the rationale was behind the option of Palmerston North is recognised as one of the most active and healthiest communities in New Zealand. In my reading of that, that would stress that your measure of success is dependent on whether or not you're recognised for the work that you're doing, as opposed to how much you're actually doing, which is a lot. And I just wondered who's doing the recognising. What does success of that measure look like?
Yeah, I suppose we're not looking through the development of that outcome to be, on a stage or anything like that, receiving an award. I think the big commonality between the organisations and, in fact, with Sport New Zealand is that we want people to be more active. That's a really common goal that binds the three organisations together. So, and it is the most important, I think, outcome of it. So, the recognition is, I suppose, for us as the organisations responsible for having an impact or influence on physical activity levels, but no, it wasn't really a, hey, look at us sort of, I mean, in the past, we have had an outcome around being the most active. And that's incredibly difficult to achieve. I think we're sitting in the kind of the middle of the pack in terms of our physical activity levels, if not, slightly below the middle of the pack. So yeah, the aspiration there is that we want people to be active. So maybe the outcome could have been expressed differently.
I think one of the things too, I guess, the national recognition would be around the Active NZ data in regards to are we above or below in regards to the national standard for tamariki and rangatahi. So that is a gauge that we look at in regards to where we sit. Obviously, we don't have complete control over that, but it is a really good measure to hold ourselves accountable to.
I see. So from that reading, we've still got recognised as one of the most. So we're qualifying the most with recognition, but the recognition could be achieved through demonstrable stats that show our movement within that. Okay, and then so there's a comment in, now I'm not going to be able to find the table. Oh, there's a comment on page 231 on that table for outcomes where it says the physical activity level measure was not able to be assessed due to data unavailability. So does that hamper our ability to demonstrate how we sit?
Yes, it does. I mean, that's really important data to have. It's probably a matter of timing. The results of the Active NZ survey get published quite regularly. That survey is undertaken annually. The problem that we have with it is it's hard to get data just for the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that we have been working with Sport New Zealand about to try and get it to city level.
Great. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Can I just follow up on that, Anne-Marie? Is the data available at a regional level? What's the next level up from city?
At the RST geographical region.
Right, thank you. And Councillor Harpiter.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Kelly, Carl and Anne-Marie. I'm on page 280 of the report. Colin from Sport New Zealand talked about regional sports facility planning and about the competing needs of different codes for planning. And in this report, it talks about that as well. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 codes that are all looking for different sporting facilities. And I just wondered, in this report, it just says that we've met. It doesn't talk about priorities of the facilities going forward. And I just wondered if Sport Manawatu was going to prioritise which of these, of the facilities going forward. I'm not sure who wants to answer the question.
Thank you for your question. We wouldn't be providing a priority list. We'd be providing advice through to council to make that decision on which ways they fund. But as you say, there are a range of facilities coming up, all at different stages. Obviously, Canoe Polo is in its infancy. The bowling greens further progressed along that space, and Arena 5 is obviously, you'll be updated on in the next discussion point. We will just provide advice in that space.
So we've also had from the community swimming, and it's not mentioned in here at all, and so I wondered about that from the swimming community. When it's not mentioned in here and it could share a facilities, which is what Colin was talking about, sharing facilities, where does that fit in this list of codes?
The aquatics needs assessment that we did, I'm trying to think, a couple of years ago now, I suppose provided the big piece of research behind what the needs were for aquatics and also water-based recreation. And it was intended to do further work on the feasibility of a new pool. My understanding that program has been deferred through the annual budget. So the projects that are listed there are more, aquatics is a bit of a blend between, I suppose, a proponent-driven, facility question and also a facility that would, I suppose, typically be provided by the council to meet those, needs of the community in its entirety, I suppose. So it has been a bit of a juggle between, taking the proponent request, which is for a particular thing, that being a 50-metre swimming pool, balanced against the findings of that research that we did a couple of years ago, which had a different recommendation. I suppose at the moment we're a little bit, we're not progressing anything in that space, given the deferral of that program.
So they just get dropped off the list if they get deferred. The need's not there anymore.
They don't get dropped off the list. I suppose it's not until council makes a decision on when it could fund that work, and amongst all of its other priorities, that particular need gets I suppose further investigation done.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that raises an interesting point about where all of this information comes together for now Hiraki Tua, having moved on from the regional sports facility planning model. Is that a space that Sport Manawatu could either step into or provide as part of your reporting to go, these are the codes that have expressed interest in a facility, this is where they are in the process, and maybe a regional lens on that as to what else is coming across the region, so that we've got one source of truth on how things are lining up, and that then would enable us to inform annual budgets and long-term plans.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Where would you see that sitting, Kelly? Is that in your annual reporting, or is that a separate thing?
It depends how you like that. So I think if we wait till the next report, that's probably not going to be till February. So if there's other opportunities to be able to bring that forward sooner, we can work collaboratively in regards to bringing you a well-rounded paper so that you feel very well informed and connected to understanding what's going on there and how that links to Hiraki Tua as a framework, because it's a decision-making framework, it doesn't necessarily drive everything. So
That would be great. Anne-Marie, do we need a recommendation for that, or is that something you can roll into ongoing work?
A recommendation regarding how we report on Hauraki.
Providing maybe a standing report. That needs to be annual, but to inform the long-term plan, certainly, about where needs assessment, facility, feasibility studies and business case processes are for proponent-led proposals for the city and for the region, just off the top of my head.
Yeah. This committee did receive a report back in March where I gave an update on Hauraki Tua, travelling through the paths of each of the councils within the region, and as part of that report there was an update showing the progress of each of those proponent-led projects, and it also, from memory, showed the connection between the work that the council has funded through the big needs assessments on aquatics and indoor courts, and showed the relationship of those to the proponent-driven projects. So yeah, it's just kind of a web of facility projects, some which we've been driving as a council, and some which we have facilitated through funding aspects of needs assessments and feasibilities for specific facilities. So yeah, happy to provide more on that in a future report. Just noting in terms of the accountability reporting for Sport Manawatu's report, it is really about their approach to the implementation of Hauraki Tua, which is not just looking at the proposals that we're dealing with, but that whole regional collaboration, looking at things like potential advocacy for regional rates for facilities, and a number of other things. It's very principles-based. So it is all about trying to inform the decision makers across the region about what things are best to invest in for the community's benefit.
Great, thank you, Anne-Marie. Question from Councillor Fitzgerald.
Oh, thanks, Madam Chair. Kelly and the team, well done. Great report, as Councillor Isabella mentioned too. So to the three of you, and I'm so excited to see the covered bowls fields finally come to the table with the feasibility study. I think it's been 2 years in the making since that started. And this question is coming from a concern of risk to the clubs more than anything else, and looking at the costs that have been presented to us today, and also.
Councillor, are you on this report or are you on the Bowles report?
Is it the same one?
No.
Sorry, my apologies.
Okay. Hold that thought till we get to Bowles.
Of course, yeah. Sorry.
I'm sure it's an excellent question. Any more questions on this one? Sorry to stop you in full flow there, but there's a lot of sports to be got through this afternoon. Okay, that is all the questions then. Thank you. So the recommendation to committee is that we receive the Sport Manawatu Charitable Trust annual report to Palmerston North City Council for 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025, attachment 1, presented to the Culture and Sport Committee on 10 September 2025. I will move that, seconded by Councillor Hancock, and open for any comments. Councillor Allen.
Thank you. I just want to thank Sport Manawatu because this is a pretty epic report with the amount of activity and impact that's been demonstrated in it. And just as per my questioning, I am really keen to see us set outcomes that actually demonstrate the amount and the breadth of the work that Sport Manawatu does and the significant impact of those activities, because it's a phenomenal amount of work that's in this report, and there's subheadings in there like helping people be active, which is just amply proven. I think Sport Manawatu have met that brief and then some, and I just don't understand why we aren't setting outcomes that reflect that role and the delivery against it, and instead opting for ones that are just impossibly broad and reliant on a different data set which isn't attributable to the city or to the Sport Manawatu activity. I kind of feel like we've missed an opportunity to refresh that outcome in a way that Sport Manawatu could report against for the next 3 years in a way that provides achievable success measures or demonstrable success measures, because I'd want to set them up for success. And if we're going for a comparative approach, why wouldn't we be comparing against historical data with our own community as a more meaningful measure than how we're doing at activating our community compared to how other places in New Zealand are activating our community? So I do think we missed the boat there, because there's just so much in that report that's going on, and then the success measure is dependent on how that compares to other places in New Zealand. And I feel like that it undermines how much awesomeness is actually going on there. Thanks.
Thank you. Over to the Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, thanks, Kelly, and to the team at Sport Manawatu. Like Councillor Isabella, there's lots of detailed reporting in there, and it's really good. I think a couple of things from me. And look, I realise it's historical and everything, but I do think elected members need to set some of the outcomes here rather than staff, and I realise it's historical. We do it differently for other partners and CCOs, yet strangely, by I suppose tradition, we've just let the staff do this. I mean, we're probably in very, very similar spaces, but it just needs to be tidied up, and I think the new council should try and get that back onto where all our other governance issues are. Can I highlight the Sports Event Partnership Fund? I think that's increased since I've been here hugely in terms of impact. The money has slightly increased. I think it's 340. It's always been in the high 20s, 200s, but now we invest 340,000, but the impact is 20 million plus. That's pretty impactful. And you look at the secondary school nationals, it also fills a lot of our facilities, as well as our economy in terms of accommodation, our food outlets, our travelling to get here, etc., etc. So badminton, rugby, basketball, volleyball, table tennis all hold their national secondary school events here. And on rotation or attraction, we hold things like the Super 6 Golf, the National Marching Championships, New Zealand Gymnastics, international softball tests, The Davis Cup, I see, wasn't listed here, but of course it's part of the whole sport mix, and that's on this weekend. Just a little plug for the media to give us a bit of promo there. The New Zealand Hockey Champs, along with a raft of other events. On our Bike Ready program, I reckon it's a great start. This has obviously transitioned a bit from some earlier years, and where we've attempted to get kids and schools into getting people cycling. 1,100 kids or students have completed grades 1 and 2, but I think there's a lot more we can do. And I think on page 270, not a great stat there, and maybe sometimes it's the questions we ask, but still not a lot of people biking, it seems, to school. And that's despite, you know, the programs in place and the bikes in schools facilities, which council's invested heavily in over the last decade. I still have some question marks over our program around regional facilities report. Look, and things have moved. You know, it was in place to stop 2 50-metre pools being built or 2 velodromes. And look, I think times have changed. And look, I supported that, and on the information we had, that was the right call to do. But we're making sports jump through a lot of hoops now, and I don't think anything's been built in recent times. And some have actually given up because it's just too hard. So I do think that we need to have perhaps a look at that and make sure it's not too much red tape and not too bureaucratic. I understand the needs for it, but I just would point out, you know, three facilities I've been involved with, there was no needs assessments. There was no long-winded feasibility studies. There were certainly business cases, and all of them attracted trust funding. All of them were driven by the community. So I do think that's just a little look in the rear vision mirror that we just might not have that quite right. But other than that, great work. Really a difficult sector as well, to get people active, try and make the money balance, and keep everybody and volunteers engaged. So on sort of focus and in wrapping up, I think you're doing a great job, and it's been a good year, so well done. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Tēnā koe, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Kelly and Carl. I'm looking at, and Anne-Marie. Thank you very much. I want to thank you for the wonderful work that you do, as evidenced in this report. Sport Manawatu is an organisation of continuous improvement. I think I've seen that in my time in the term. I think also that most weekends, wherever you go in Palmerston or City, you also see people active here, there and everywhere. And I love the fact that it's also spread across a good cross-section of our community, but different generations as well. And your roles in advocacy for sport and the organisation that you do is truly valued. I too acknowledge the volunteers, the participants, and also their families who go along and watch. But I've probably attended as many as I can of the tournaments that have happened, that have taken place here. Kelsey, you're just right opposite me there, ngā mihi kia koe hoki. But just, it's fantastic to see what comes to Palmerston North and what we offer, and hence I think that's why people keep coming back. But it's of huge benefit to our city in so many ways. So thank you. Ngā mihi kia koutou. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kia ora. Councillor Harpeter.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I also want to thank Kelly and Carl and Anne-Marie for the report, but also for the work that they have done with the sector, particularly in the areas of the facilities planning. Doing the work in the needs assessment is hard work, and collecting all the needs from all the different codes is very hard work. So particularly from the areas in Arena 5, I know going to all the user groups has been very tough, and I thank you for doing that work. Doing the work with the football turf area, also for the bowls and green, and for the gym sports, and starting the work in the canoe polo area. But I do not want to forget the swimming area, because that is an area that we do have a need, and I want to pick that up at some stage and see if we can get some kind of pool at some stage for our area, because we do actually need a 50-metre pool. It isn't something we want to forget about, so let's put that back into the mixing pot. So thanks very much for all that hard work.
Thank you. To echo everybody else's thanks, thank you Sport Manawatu and Anne-Marie for your work alongside Sport Manawatu and the great outcomes that this report points to for last year, and also for the refresh of those outcomes for the next contract. And I think those three outcome areas can speak to the breadth of the work that Sport Manawatu does for us. Yeah, that work with regional sports organisations, picking up the comments that Colin brought to us this morning from Sport New Zealand about some of the difficulties out there that sports organisations face and some of the challenges and opportunities that we're going to have to lean into. I think we all have confidence knowing that Sport Manawatu is there to help those organisations through that and provide really good advice through officers to council where council help's needed. That collaborating with council staff and in our play space particularly about how we activate our public spaces and get people active in unexpected ways. Possibly not quite as unexpected as a video I saw recently of Councillor Barrett on the mobile gym, but where I'm open to all kinds of opportunities there. Others have talked about the Sports Event Partnership Fund, and that is an incredibly important piece of how we do economic development in this community. Sports is a real leverage point for us there, and there's huge benefits that go well beyond our active community. Although noting one of the things that Kelsey talked about this morning was the increased number of teams, local teams that get to participate in national level events because we hold so many of them here. That's a very real benefit to our community and the funding parents of our community, that those teams don't have to travel or wouldn't even be given the opportunity to travel if it wasn't here at home. And then in outcome 3, I am really excited for this shift in focus to this kind of grassroots activation of activity levels. I think I have fond memories of my kids and their iMove opportunities. There was lots of stamp collecting going on as they scooted to school, and I think it helps to build good habits in our tamariki. It's really a great way of approaching it. And I like also that we're going from one end to the other and working with our age-friendly action plan in that let's get moving through walking and cycling. So that just speaks to the breadth of the work that Sport Manawatu do on our behalf. I think Councillor Zabellin is right that if we're not doing ourselves a favour if we focus on things that we can't measure your impact in. And that was disappointing in the report to see lots of things going, well, we're pretty confident we met them, but we can't evidence that through the data that we have access to. So maybe we'd consider actually what can we measure and how will we know that we've achieved those outcomes. I do support He Rākeitua, and that's been a discussion point around this chamber recently. I think it's important in looking not just at what council's responsibility is and the good use of ratepayer money, but also saying to code, so if you don't want to go through all the hoops we have to jump through, feel free to do it yourself. Feel free. Nothing to stop you. Oh, out you go and fundraise for that if you think that you've got your ducks in a row. And I think there's got to be room for that flexibility. Council doesn't have to provide the solution to everybody's problem. But if people want ratepayer money for their project, then rightly, I think that's a pretty high bar to access it. And He Rākeitua gives us a fair and consistent approach to doing that. And I'd like to see us look across the region to know what's coming broadly. So, not everybody gets a pool. Although, who said it was awesomeness? I think probably the mayor said there's a lot of awesomeness going on, and I would agree. Thanks, Sport Manawatu, for bringing all the awesomeness. You are legendary. So, on that cheerful note, I will ask you to vote the recommendation in front of you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is the covered bowling green proposed change in location. I know Councillor Fitzgerald has got a question for this. He has foreshadowed it. But before we get to questions, I will invite Kathy Deaver-Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves, and Carl Johnston, General Manager Partnerships for Sport Manawatu, to come back to the table and speak to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Just a couple of points. I'll take the report as read. I just wanted to make in regard to this report that may not be clear. Council is the landowner of Takaro Park. The cover that is proposed is a development within the lease area and consistent in general accordance with the lease provisions of their current lease. As mentioned, there will be a building consent required, and in relation to site coverage, there may be the need for a resource consent. So making a decision today, I just wanted to advise you that as a regulatory authority, you're not making those decisions. This is just a funding decision, and there are a number of other steps involving council that will occur in the future. Oh, so one other thing I just wanted to raise was you put aside 450,000 in the LTP, but of course that has been inflation adjusted as it was later years. That figure is now sitting at 475.
Thank you. Nothing, Carl? Great. And recognising we have Bowls representatives in the gallery today. Thank you for joining us. And I'll open that for questions. There are a number queuing up. We'll start with Councillor Fitzgerald, because I think he deserves it.
Very kind, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Thanks again, guys, and thanks for that clarification too, Kathy. And I was just commenting earlier on when I wasn't supposed to be. Some nervousness for the clubs in terms of, and I now appreciate from your comments, Kathy, that there's a whole lot more work to do. The nervousness is just coming from not being able to see the detail in perhaps the expertise that might be required to be pulled into the project during construction, and whether or not there's going to be some contingency funds around that. Is that planning still to be decided or worked through with regards to the steering group?
Yes, through you. So there is a working party that's been established within the Takaro committee, and they'll also have Bowls New Zealand representation and Bowls Manawatu as part of that. So yeah, there is a number of layers across that.
Great. Okay. Really, really excited for the sport, so thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Just looking at page 289 on 3.1.c, the timeline there, the design part aspect of the project is first. I'm just wondering who's doing the design and how is that part of it funded? Is that funded by Takaro Sports Club or is that funded by council?
Yes, that will be Takaro that will be taking the lead in that space.
Okay, and is that cost, the cost of the design, is that included in the 995 target that's under 5.3 on page 292? The totals there, is the design included or is that additional to what is outlined there?
So it's total of in that breakdown, the canopy of 849, and then there's a canopy design of 69,000, and then drainage 30,000 on 6.1.
Sorry, I'm not quite.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm looking at 5.3, the 995,000, and how that's divvied up between the grants and the club council. I'm just wondering, it says that talks about the total construction costs covered 950, including consenting. So I'm just wondering if the design is included in this or is it additional to this?
So councillor, if I can refer you to page 297, where there is a breakdown in the capital budget.
Yes, and yeah, so there's the design part there. Okay, thank you. And my second, thanks for that. And the second question I had was in the timing of council funding on page 293 under 6.3, it talks about if there's a delay of 2 months, then the timeline, the funding will all sit within the 27-28 year, which is the first year of the LTP. And I'm just wondering if the resolution that we've got there transfers, would it then be up for consideration as part of the LTP? Or would this resolution lock it in?
This resolution would make a commitment under the current long-term plan. It isn't uncommon for funding in one long-term plan to be carried forward into a second long-term plan because the project hasn't been completed.
Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question from me, and apologies if there's something Councillor Naylor asked in the moment I popped out. Just on page 297, there's just a malalignment between the project costs and the project funding. It's about assuming that it would be funded 45,000 ahead of what the cost of the project would be. Is there a reason for that? Or is that just a contingency?
Would assume a contingency there.
Okay.
Also noted in the budget, there is no provision currently for resource consent. So if that was required, those costs haven't been included. Only building consent has been.
Okay, so if the project came in $45,000 under the anticipated cost and the anticipated amount of funding, like it's predicting there, if it was a grant funder, they would ask for their money to come back to them. Would this, if the project ended up costing less than we anticipated, would the money come back to council or would it go back to grant funders?
The resolution is committing council to an amount of money, not a portion of costs. So that money would be to the project regardless of the project cost, the ultimate project cost.
So even if it underspent, we're the ones who pay that price rather than...
Correct with the current resolution on the paper.
All right, Madam Chair.
Councillor Zabelin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you. I just had a question at 4.4. 4.4, it says there is strong support from Bowls New Zealand to have a covered green in the region. I just wondered, is that financial support or other types of support? I know they've been very, very helpful in the process thus far. What does the strong support look like going forward?
The strong support is in their strategic direction, that they would like to see them in there. There has been discussion of potential financial support within to get some of those design costs across the line, but to what that dollar figure is, they haven't had those discussions as yet.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks to you both. Look, I've just got a very quick question. Paragraph 2.3 talked about the feasibility study and it specified a preferred location. Are there any applications there for the reallocation of funds because of that's predicated a location in the feasibility study? Is there any rework required in respect of that?
No, I wouldn't expect any, Councillor. As far as the site location, or what's the question?
Well, 2.3 said detailed feasibility study was completed and reported to Council in April 2023. The report concluded further work on strategic direction, a preferred location, funding streams, including operational funding in the business case was needed. So did that actually specify the preferred location, or was it, have I just misread that?
So that was carried out as part of the report.
So my reading of it is the detailed feasibility study concluded that further work on, and one of those things is a preferred location was required.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harpiter.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you. Just one question from me. Is it a retractable roof or no? Thank you.
Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been scaled back slightly to just a roof. What was the cost of the building when it had the sides? In a nutshell, it's $1 million for the roof.
I wasn't here for the initial part, but I understand it was close to 2 million.
Okay.
Or over 2 million.
All right. Was Palmerston North Bowling Club approached again to tell them that things had changed, that the scale of the project had changed and they might be interested again?
So Palmerston North Bowling Club increased the scale of the project at their location.
Yeah.
Original scale of the project was somewhat what it is now.
Yeah.
Palmerston North Bowling Club expressed no further interest in having a covered green, regardless of scale.
What was the cost of their part for that initial project? What were they going to put into the mix?
They would have been looking to fund the difference between what it was going to cost, the 2 million, and the amount you've got in front of you today.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. A question from me just on the fundraising, and that's signalled as a risk in the report. And in 5.10, you talk about other community projects potentially seeking funding in a similar time frame. And I suppose this for me links back to that Hierarchy 2 discussion we were just having. Do we take into consideration the other projects that might be fishing in the same funding pond when we're looking at the timeline for these projects? Or is it just take your money, take your chance?
We do. It depends on which funding body they approach. So quite often the funding body will come back to us and say, we've got a number of projects in the city. Which is your preferred project in this timeline? They obviously make their own independent decision. When we as council put forward projects, we give consideration to our priority and timeline. However, this is not a council project.
Okay, thank you for that. That is the end of questions. So the recommendation is that the operational grant of $475,000 provided in Long-Term Plan Programme 2537 be transferred from the Palmerston North Bowling Club to the Takaro Sports Club, Takaro Bowls section. I will move that, seconded by Councillor Harpeter, and open for any comments. Councillor Harpeter.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm very happy to support this. I was around when this first came up a couple of years ago, and I think very proud of Takaro Sports Club to have picked this up from Palmerston North. I think Takaro Sports Club is a very good club and with a lot of heart. And I think that at the end of the day, 475, it was 450, is a good amount of money. It was in our long-term plan and be well worth putting our money where our mouth is to put this up. It's a good investment for the city, and I think that we should carry on doing what we said we were going to do, so I'm very happy to support this going forward. Thank you.
And there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, look, I'm fully supportive of this as well. It has been passed over to Takaro now, and I acknowledge our team in the gallery there. Look, Takaro is a multi-sport club, but with a very strong bowls history and heritage. It's well located and out servicing our southern suburbs of the city. I think funding will always be difficult in any environment, but I can just say that the funding agencies, the trusts, do come to the city. They do talk to Sport Manawatu as well, and we sort of know what is happening in the community space as well, and this has always been on the cards. I'm just here for your fundraising to the Takaro team. You could get the councillors into a bowls event and put bets on them. It's a challenge for everybody. No, in all seriousness, I think it's, we've World Bowls president is Brett O'Reilly at the moment, and he's well known to us as the former CE of Auckland Unlimited, and I know he said to me a long time ago that Palmerston North, with its bowls heritage, should absolutely have a facility like this. So, yeah, look, it's long overdue, and well done, Takaro, for picking it up, and I think you'll find the city will get right in behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comments, so we'll vote. Can we take the vote again? Some people were chatting. I know, it's been a long day, but focus, we're nearly there. That's unanimous, thank you. Our next item, Arena 5 development, 6 monthly update. Glenn Bunny back to the table to present that report. Glenn's our manager of property. Thank you, Bowles people, for coming in. Kia ora. Glenn, over to you, Arena 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, Glenn Bunny, Manager Property. I'll take the report as read, 6 monthly update on progress with the Arena 5 development, detailing the work that's been done since the February update and give some more detail to next steps. We are in the throes of lots of external expertise procurement, as the report suggests, and the project in summary is on time and on budget to date. I'll leave it at that, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions are coming in. I will start with Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Glenn. I just want to ask on point 2.8, because this came up in the long-term plan as well. It talks about the decommissioning of the existing Barbara and Bell halls. And I recall we made a resolution at the long-term plan not to decommission them without council approval, something along those lines. I just want to understand, hypothetically, let's say in the government's review of earthquake standards, these buildings don't need huge amounts of work for earthquake strengthening. Could we not fix them?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess the hypothetical answer to that is yes, if things changed. They are suffering from seismic issues and have been described as, in terms of asset condition, at end of life as well. But if we could find a suitable new life for them with a purpose and the financials, etc., stacked up with those changes you're alluding to, then yes, we could consider retaining them in the portfolio.
Right, because part of the reason of building a new Arena 5, can you correct me if I'm wrong, is that we don't have enough court space at the moment. And so if we built a new Arena 5 and then demolished 2 of the existing buildings, wouldn't we'd be back at square one once it's built, just with the same amount or maybe slightly more court space?
Potentially. So the work that's been undertaken through this Arena 5 project is in line with the master plan, obviously, that council's adopted and we're working towards. The design requirements that are going into the new Arena 5 will look to alleviate those issues, councillor, and make sure we've got the right square meterage of floor space with the right utilisation and flexibility to avoid that exact outcome.
Can you talk me through how badly earthquake prone are these buildings? Are we talking 2%? Are we talking 50%? Are we talking, you know?
Oh, I don't.
Are they absolutely buggered, or they just need a little bit of remediation work?
I don't have that detail in front of me. I can take that away on notice and bring that back.
The reason I'm asking all this is, at what point will councillors be expected to make a decision on the retention and upgrade or the demolition of those buildings? Is that 3 years away, 5 years away, 10 years away?
Well, we're following the trajectory of the master plan, of course, so that sets out, you know, the intended future for the whole arena complex. Through this timeline, those existing buildings and assets wouldn't be considered for demolition or repurposing until a new Arena 5 is constructed, but we could certainly revisit their future at that point in time if that was the will of the council.
Thank you.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. I had the same question actually, but the other question I had was, once the new Arena 5 is constructed, will that bring any additional revenue in?
Potentially, yes. I think like lots of the conversations today, we need to be thinking about those revenue earning opportunities where we're investing in new assets and even for existing assets. Through the steering group meetings and the user group meetings, we have discussed those opportunities. So keeping in mind a want or a desire to have an asset like this earning where it can, we need to make sure that that sentiment is factored into design requirements and we end up with an asset that is multi-purpose, can be bookable, is maybe creating new business and not just cannibalising existing utilisation.
Thank you. So has additional revenue been factored into our long-term plan in a response to us building this?
Not that I'm aware, no.
So based on that, could we likely expect that the revenue may exceed what's been included in our long-term plan?
Yeah, potentially. It's not something I've been heavily involved in. I know the venues manager is in the chambers. He might be able to provide a fuller answer, but certainly there is a live conversation about additional revenue opportunities.
That's good. Thank you.
That's all the questions. Thank you, Glenn. So I'll move that the committee receive the memorandum of Arena 5 Development 6-monthly update presented to Culture and Sport on the 10th of September, seconded by the Mayor, and open for any comments. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. It's good to have an update on where this is at. In particular, I'm quite mindful with our long-term plan predictions around the Arena 5 that we don't comply with our revenue and financing policy towards the end of the LTP based on the additional costs and perhaps the revenue not keeping up with that. The user fees and charges are meant to be between 20 and 39% on that medium-low setting, but it does fall down to 19% currently on our LTP figures. So I'm really pleased to hear that that the whole issue around additional revenue is being looked at. That's positive. I think that's very essential given the level of investment and particularly the costs going forward and the debt repayments. I mean, the debt repayments alone go from 1 million to 15 million just over the next few years. So there's a lot of costs for our community to pay for, and we do need to look at how we get some additional revenue for some of that.
And to the Mayor.
Okay, I'll be positive. So colleagues, we all know outer years of LTPs have some sort of, or have a lot of complexity to them, so they often don't pan out. In fact, in the 10 years I've been here, they definitely change. So we'll start with that. But yes, Councillor Naylor's right, there should be some factoring in of different revenue streams, and I remind you that Arena's arguably the most efficient and versatile stadium facility in the country. Where colleagues, we have stadiums in some of the biggest cities that are only used 15 days a year, and consequently have a huge subsidy from their ratepayer base, where ours is a lot more efficient. Just a couple of questions, and thanks Glenn for the work that's going on in the background. I'd have to say there's been great user workshop and views of the community, the sports, the user groups, both community and commercial, on what Arena 5 would look like. Remembering that the old Arena 5, the existing Arena 5, which is the Bell and Barber halls, it isn't it isn't a like for like, because there is some sports, and just to perhaps answer Councillor Wood's earlier questions to the officers, there are some sports like volleyball and basketball that can't be played in certain parts of those facilities. So, and I understand there's at least another 15 years with a bit of repairs and maintenance and looking after the building. So, 2039 or something was mentioned in one of our workshops. So I think there is, we're going to end up with some more capacity, but it actually is that court space which we do need. And I know we've got volleyball in the room and Sport Manawatu, etc. But those sports, those ball sports, and we've got basketball nationals here in a few weeks. They do need that space, and it is a competitive environment. We're competing with other cities as well, and we've seen the economic impact it brings into the city. We do need to keep on the program, on the master plan, and working towards it. And obviously our contract with the community is to delivering that on time and under budget, I hope. So, good work to date, and thanks to the officers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being on the Arena steering group, I certainly support Arena, and I've always sort of seen it as the city's golden goose. It might not make this council any money per se, but the wealth it creates our city is massive, and I certainly support continuing to build on that legacy. Bell and Barber, they predate to the 1930s. They're doing well, aren't they? So we need to keep those buildings. As the Mayor said, it's 10, 15 years of life, and the cat show needs it. Roller skating, those buildings do a lot. So certainly support Arena. and let's keep on building what we've got. Thank you.
And Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, team. I've just quickly gone back to our long-term plan, so I think it's worth refreshing to the chamber. We passed a resolution that said Council amend Programme 1194 CET Arena Master Plan Redevelopment to retain Barber and Bell Halls with appropriate maintenance, at the same time developing and constructing a new Arena 5. That was passed in the chamber. So the advice from officers that the Arena Master Plan still sets us on a trajectory to decommission those halls after Arena 5 has been built is not correct. Our plans have changed, and my fear in that is that, and understandably, the many resolutions and emotions that were passed in the long-term plan, this one's been forgotten. So I just think it's really clear we make the point, 2.8 in this report is not correct. We are not decommissioning Barber and Bell Halls as per our long-term plan resolution, because the problem is if we go ahead with a trajectory of assuming we're going to decommission them, then we will not continue to maintain them at the level we would versus if we assume we are going to keep them. And so I certainly think, and I appreciate what the mayor says, we're not building like for like, I agree, but if we built a new Arena 5 and then got rid of Barber and Bell, we would lose, some of the capacity that would be created, particularly when you talk about the different codes that utilise that, unless we're going to say to badminton, sorry, you can't use Arena 5, we've got roller skating in here for the next, you've got to have different spaces for different codes. And so I would be quite confident that maintaining Barber and Bell would be cheaper than building a brand new Barber and Bell. And so I don't, in my mind anyway, see Arena 5 necessarily as a replacement for those two. I see them as complementing those two. And so it concerns me if we're on a trajectory where we aren't budgeting and aren't doing the work to make sure that we at least know what the cost is for Barber and Bell. Look, when we get to the long-term plan, if the cost comes to us, it's going to be 30 million to keep the two halls, well, I'll support decommissioning them as well. But we need to be in a position where we've got that information so that we can make a decision when we get to our next long-term plan, and not just going along a pathway where we assume we're not going to keep them, because certainly that has not been the direction of council up until this date. And so I like what we're doing with Arena 5. I look forward to where we're going. I look forward to creating that capacity. But I really think we need to have another look at that one, because I don't think our internal narrative is quite right there.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wood. I think that's excellent points made there, and I would, and the next steps in this report are into registration of interest, request for tenders. Now, I would hate us to go into that on the basis of incorrect information. So I'm looking to officers for some confirmation that that resolution from long-term plan, you've got it. That's an official thumbs up from the CE, which I'm giving voice to for the purposes of the record, that's noted. So we're on to it. Good. Thank you for that, Councillor Wood. Thank you to the CE for his confirmation. I will ask you to vote on the recommendation. Carried by some, which might be unanimous. Next item on the agenda, Play Policy Annual Implementation and Monitoring Report 2025. Madam Mayor Jury is going to come down and present that as our play advisor. Manu, your name's been mentioned a few times in the chamber today already, so your ears might have been burning, but all good things, I promise you, just in case you weren't following that along. And I'll hand over to you to present your report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair. Tēnā koutou, Manu Mayor Jury, Play Advisor, Community Development Team. Lucky last, and well done for hanging in there, so I'll try and keep this brief. Palmy is a city that values connection, communities, and active lifestyles, and play brings those values to life. At its essence, play should be free, spontaneous, and as affirmed in United Nations Article 31, a fundamental right for all. Yet almost 1 in 3 adults in our city report being completely inactive, and as Sport NZ highlighted earlier, participation deficits remain across key demographics. These statistics provide context for the significance of the continued progress for our play program. A reminder, in 2021, we adopted Play, Palmy Play, the only policy in Aotearoa that recognises play for all ages. In 2023, the implementation plan set out our roadmap to achieve our policy objectives. And this year, in 2025, with the launch of our Play Equity Mapping project, we're reshaping how we consider access and equity in play. This report highlights our ongoing progress, our evolving partnerships, and our shared opportunity to make Palmy a city where play can happen anywhere, anytime, and for anyone. Ngā mihi, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Manu. There are certainly some questions coming in, and I'll go to Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Manu. Just wanted to ask about the Play Equity Mapping project. Was that something that we did internally, or was that something that we consulted externally on?
Thank you. That's been an internal project across a variety of teams, including myself and the community development team, our strategic planning, GIS, and parks team as well.
Thank you. Unless I've missed it, I note this report doesn't have that mapping in there. Are we going to see that at some point at this table, or is it just an internal map?
So we're still a work in progress.
Okay.
Just noting that a play equity mapping, certainly here in Aotearoa, has not been done before. So we are developing a methodology learning as we go. I guess the unique approach is that we are using the Collins model of play equity, so looking to expand how we define play equity. So not just focusing on location or geographical indicators, but trying to factor in things like deprivation levels, ethnicity, and even gender, because we know that there is deficits, for example, when it comes to play rates around women and girls in participation. So we are trying something slightly different that hasn't been done before, so we are working hard to make sure that we develop the right methodology and then run the right level of analysis to ensure that our findings can then be fed back within, for example, to our parks team, who already have a levels of service program that does a lot to address equity in a broader sense, not just specifically to play outcomes.
Thank you. Could I just understand that a little bit more when you say this is something that hasn't been done before? So of the 7 pillars that you're looking at, you're mapping, location, I presume we already know where our parks are. Deprivation, we use deprivation mapping regularly for things like our alcohol licensing, for example. The council's just undertaken a disability review of all of our facilities. So doesn't a lot of this work already exist? And how is that fair, or are we doing something completely new on top of what we've already done?
Correct. The information is out there in different, I guess, from different sources. The challenge has been, how do we break that down to the level that we require at so to begin with, we decided to work at an SA2 level or a neighbourhood level to give ourselves a truer sense, essentially what life is like for any member in that neighbourhood. The trouble is, and particularly with our Sport NZ Active NZ survey, the data is hard to drill down to that level. It's typically at a regional level. So we do have to work through making sure that some of the activity rates or data that we collect matches up to those other sources.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I was noting in the pay equity section, and then later it talks about next steps, and a review of the play policy is scheduled for later this year. Noting we're already in September, when is that scheduled for specifically?
We don't have a clear date as yet, but I am hopeful it'll be by the end of this year. Okay. If anyone wants to correct me.
Well, we'll assume by the end of this year unless somebody tells us differently. David?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. We are in the process of reviewing the policy program. So yeah, once that's complete, we can provide an update time frame for the play policy review. So yeah, like most things, there's more work than resources. So it's about prioritising alongside other council priorities.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Zabellin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Manu. I had 3 questions for you. One is about the Palmy play packs and that those aren't continuing, but the report says insights will inform any future adaptations. I just wondered what were some of the insights that we got from that program?
Thank you. So we trialled in partnership with Sport Manawatu the introduction of some play packs with Kāinga Ora and some of their new residents, specifically with one of their North Street developments. The feedback directly from those residents was that it was well received. We stocked those packs with a combination of fun, for example, balls and frisbees, but then also what we hoped would be practical things, so bus timetables or information on our playground maps to ensure that they had that, I guess, ability to know that when you're a new resident in a neighbourhood that you understand where your opportunities are. So the feedback was overwhelmingly good. These were free packs to those residents. But ultimately, we decided to not continue with the pilot purely for resourcing and capacity. But it's certainly something we would like to revisit in the future, if possible.
Thank you. My next question was about the neighbourhood play system, and that the next one is scheduled for late next year, and it's going to be in the 4412. And I just wondered, is that going to focus on any one school in particular, like the Terrace End one, or is it more of a suburb-wide approach for that review?
So the NPS or Neighbourhood Play System review is something that's led by Sport Manawatu, and then we support as closely as we can, particularly on those recommendations that come through out of that report. The NPS model is that you select a specific school. My understanding is that there is a set criteria. They do have to be identified as a HAL or a Healthy Active Learning School. And then from there we start with that school and we drill down right down to the tamariki voice, which is one of the few opportunities, as we know, for tamariki to bring their voice into a forum as such. And talk to us about what the realities are living in their neighbourhood, in their school zone, and what access and equity is like for those children. And then we expand out from there from about I believe it's a 1K radius.
Great, thank you. And my final question is about the shelter and shade provision, which I don't know if Kathy's here. It might be a question for Kathy, but you noted for the shelter and shade provision that shelter structures are planned for all the suburb level reserves, and I wondered how many suburb level reserves lack a structure at present, because there's a helpful list in there of the ones that do have them. I wondered how many don't have them at the moment.
If I could hand over to Kathy.
Deputy Retired Manager Parks and Reserves. We are on the last suburb reserve now, and we're constructing one at Bunnythorpe Recreation Ground. So that's the last one that doesn't have one.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Question from the Deputy Mayor.
Tēnā koe, Madam Chair, and ngā mihi kia koe manu mea, ka rawe tō mahi. Thank you for your presentation. I just want to ask 2 questions. well, might actually be 3, but I note that on page 319, 4.3, you've noted that projects were co-designed with communities, and I wondered if there were any trends or interesting insights that came from that experience.
Sorry, just to double check, 4.3?
Yes, 4.3 on page 319.
Thank you. Yeah, so a number of initiatives this year, we've taken a strong focus on co-designing with community partners. One such example might be to highlight the pop-up play series. Now, that's an initiative that we work closely with Sport Manawatu, and together with Sport Manawatu, we look to expand to include more community partners, for example, Manawatu Multicultural Council, and even Kāinga Ora with the introduction of their, and the city's first community centre, Whare Manaki in North Street. Those are just 2 examples, but I think they do highlight in a great way those expanding partnerships in the play program to ensure that we have, I guess, not just council and Sport Manawatu, but others out there who are advocating, but also, I guess, directly initiating play for the communities that they work closely with.
Thank you for that. And my last question is, are we using a specific framework for the play equity mapping, or are we designing it? And if we're designing it, is this a tool and or an intellectual asset that we can protect or on-sell? Because it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, there's no such set framework, particularly here in Aotearoa, so it is I guess, designing the methodology as we go. Yes, that would be lovely if we could trademark that and on-sell it. But I think it is also important just to note that our council, we are part of Sport New Zealand's national play workforce, and this council was selected as part of Cohort 1, so we are one of the first 5 in New Zealand to be on the program. And so we do work quite collaboratively with the other play advisors or play advocates across other councils. So I mentioned that, I guess, one framework that I have drawn from is the Collins equity, play equity model, and that does come from the wonderful play advisor up in Auckland City Council. So there is quite a crossover and collective effort from multiple play advisors across the country to ensure that we all do good work for our individual locations.
Perfect. Thank you, Manumia. Ngā mihi nui mo tō mahi. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kia ora. That is the end of questions. Thank you, Mani. The recommendation is that we receive the memorandum titled Play Policy Annual Implementation and Monitoring Report 2025, presented to the Culture and Sport Committee on 10 September 2025, which I will move and the Deputy Mayor will second. Thank you. I'll open up any comments. The Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Manu. You're doing some great work there, and I think like the Welcome Communities, this play initiative, and being one of the pilot cities, or the first 5, I think is a testament to what the city's doing and your work in that space. I've seen plenty of play activities with your fingerprints all over it, so well done. Whether it's pop-ups, events, festivals and the like, it's really, really good work. And great that we're working with partners like Sport Manawatu, MMC, Aged Friendly Manawatu, government departments, other community groups. I think that's the way we can do more with less. Really looking forward. I mean, I know it's been mainly the domain of our smaller residents, i.e. our youth, our families, but are really looking forward to the active age games, which I think I'm opening on Thursday the 30th of September at 9 a.m. Well, the media's gone, but I was just trying to get you another plug. At Arena 5 at the Barber Hall. See, the Barber Hall's still open, Councillor Wood. So you don't have to work. I'll introduce it to you sometime. But anyway, it's so you could come along. But no, in all seriousness, you're obviously operating, there's quite a wide program of work. It's actually more in depth than I even thought it was. So great work, and considering you're a team of one, you're doing really, really well. Thank you.
Councillor Zabellin.
Thank you. I totally agree. And this is another pretty epic report with just jam-packed full of activities and things that have been going on. And I just wanted to note that I think that the sensory backpacks are just this really amazing initiative and such a novel way to make our busy and hectic events more accessible. And also the play kits for emergency management centres is just a good idea. And that my personal favourite has been the scavenger hunts in Te Maraohine, because we've been really competitive in our family, and that's just fun for all ages. Thank you for making our city more fun.
Well said, Councillor Zabellin. Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Manamia, for a great report. I just really want to comment just on the play equity mapping, and it's just really awesome to actually see that in a report, and in the way in which it's actually delivered to us, which is about our city actually being innovative in this space, and actually trying to look at, I guess, opportunities and understanding deficits, which will lead to positive impacts for our community well-being. So it's really, really important. And I guess it also will actually inform equitable investment across our communities, which I think is very, very important, particularly for challenged neighbourhoods and communities within our city. So, Manamia, thank you for that work, and I look forward to hearing how that progresses in the future. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the report and for the work, huge work that it represents. Particularly impressed, I think, by how this, as a partnership project from Sport New Zealand, Sport Manawatu, Palmerston North City Council, and the other councils you referenced, who are part of this cohort one, sharing, learning about how we get more better playful outcomes in our own locations. It's been really inspiring to see some of those activities and outcomes coming through. So thank you for the work that you have done and will continue to do for us. Colleagues, I will ask you to vote to receive that memo. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the committee work schedule, September 2025. I will invite the General Manager to make some comments, if she can work her machine.
Kia ora koutou. Just to note that the review of the in-house service delivery of Keisha Birch has been moved to the very full agenda, council agenda of October the 8th.
Thank you. We did try hard to avoid doing that, but that was unavoidable, I'm afraid. Any other questions on the work schedule? No. Then I'll move that the Culture and Sport Committee receive the work schedule dated September 2025, seconded by Councillor Zabellin. I feel like I'm a really bad auctioneer today. No comments on that, so I'll ask you to vote. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Which brings us to the end of quite an epic Culture and Sport Committee and the final Culture and Sport Committee of the Thank you to you all for your active participation in that. Of course, you'd expect nothing less from the final report being play. This was the new committee for this term of council. I think we weren't quite sure how it was going to go, but there's been that opportunity to bring together consideration of active and passive recreation for our community. It's been an opportunity to break down some historical silos of behaviour or even competitive behaviour between the various sectors that have sat in behind that, to understand a bit more of the challenges all of those sectors across play, sport, rec, arts, culture and heritage face. So thank you all for putting your shoulder to the wheel of that. And particular thanks from me to the partners in this work, which are our CCOs, who we've seen today, the Regent, the Globe, Te Manawā, and our strategic partner, Sport Manawatu, who've held in strong through all of today. And for all of those organisations, their supporters, the codes, clubs, organisations they represent, there's deep reach from the work of this committee out into our community, and it's been a huge pleasure to be involved in so much of that over the last 3 years. And I do want to also say thank you to the officers who've supported the committee. There have been many and varied. We have had many different GMs in this seat. They've all done a good job of supporting me in that, and we've had many administrators on this side. I'm quite sad that Natalia, who has been our main administrator, isn't here today, but my thanks go to you all as a team for supporting the work of our committee. Mr. Mayor, you want to say something?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, thank you to yourself and the Deputy. I think he's offline at the moment, boxing somewhere in Glasgow. Yeah, thank you for your chairing of the meetings and to the fellow committee members as well. And look, we've got through a lot of work in the last 3 years in terms of culture, arts, heritage and sport and rec. So finished on a really good note. And I've just reminded Councillor Wood where Barber Hall is. Thank you.
There's no shortage of assets in this consideration of this committee. Okay, nō reira ngā mihi nui ki koutou, e ngā mana, e ngā reo, tēnā koutou katoa, and I'll wrap us up with our closing karakia. If you'd like to join in, I know you all know the words now. Kia puta ki te whaio ki te au marama, whakamoa ki a tīna. Homie, huie, tai kie. Kia ora. Workshop? No?